Hello and welcome to my presentation of social emotional learning in Mexico and Japan. My name is Peter Dill and this is for EDUU 607. Alright, so starting off with Mexico and Japan. So in Mexico we know that family is the center of the social structure. They tend to prioritize that over individual needs. The national curriculum is developed by the Secretary of the Education, that is their Department of Education, who is in charge of guidelines and national curriculums, textbooks, and standards. Their age for compulsory education is 6 to high school graduation, but even then they have a very high dropout rate and a very low completion rate. Their goal, as stated in their Department of Education, is to develop the skills required in the 21st century, focusing more on developing social emotional skills and competencies rather than rote learning. Japan, on the other hand, also has compulsory education for students, but theirs is only for the first 9 years. That means it's usually for primary and middle school, but 98% of their students do end up going to high school, and the majority of them do end up going to university or college afterwards. Their national government decides and implements educational measures to provide equal opportunities for students and maintain their standards. So the Ministry of Education, Cultural, Sports, Science, and Technology, the MEXT, is responsible for setting national curriculum, standards, teacher certification programs, and official prerequisites for setting up educational institutions. Their goal is to cultivate active abilities for independence and collaboration, thus creating collective change such as new values, initiatives that foster a wide range of learning opportunities that is accessible to all. So this brings me to my comparative research thesis. This comparative research analysis study examines the issue of social emotional learning at the secondary education level in Mexico, Japan, and the United States. Some of the key pieces during the research was Mexico had a very high violence rate in their educational environment. A lot of their students reported bullying, depression, and there's a high rate of early pregnancy, all of these which affect high school completion, the dropout rate, and their academics. In response, the Department of Education in Mexico has created the social emotional education to address these needs, and that is known as the SEE. Japan, on the other hand, because of its high pressure to perform academically to both get into high school and to college through their entrance exams, the students are not provided with the correct coping skills if they do not meet the standards of the entrance exams. This creates a high rate of bullying and suicide, second to only South Korea. And the social emotional skills are embedded in the curriculum and are taught about, but they're not directly addressed and developed. Some of the key findings. So in Mexico, the national curriculum has begun to incorporate the social emotional learning, but there is the current problem of implementation and accountability across the infrastructure of the education system in Mexico. Japan is in its early stages of social emotional learning implementation, but they are talking about the emotional realm as a whole. And they do have an anchor point implementation, which is a 10-step implementation, like recommendation requisite for implementing social emotional learning, creating a program at a certain site or an educational institution. In the United States, CASEL is the leading developer for social emotional curriculum and standards, and their biggest role is to research and set best practices into play for educators and education as a whole. And they also influence policymakers and educators in promoting social emotional learning education for all students. So the final conclusion is there is a lack of social emotional learning in teacher education. None of the countries have a consistent curriculum in their teacher education program that consists of social emotional learning. And this might be a roadblock into the actual implementation in the classroom. Each country is at a different stage of SEL implementation. United States being the most advanced as of right now. Japan is in its very early stages, and Mexico is in its work in developing its own curriculum and its own practices. But the good news is they are all talking about the need for the students to be supported in regards to their social and emotional needs. And they see the value of the emotional realm and how it affects a student's educational experience. And here are my references. Thank you for watching.